Alright guys, Pterodactyl here, today bringing you another developer update for Hell Let Loose. If you do like this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more. I mean, we are getting very close to 7,000 subs now, so it'd be amazing to hit that before July 27th when the full game is released. But first we're going to look at last week's update, specifically the changes to Outposts, where they're deciding to make them all shiny and chrome. So there's some good updates they've put to the Outposts. They're trying to make them a more uniform size and height, which is good because, you know, quite a while ago the German OP had a really big antenna on it, so it really stood out above like hedges and stuff. It was a lot more easier to spot. So they shortened that in update 9, which is a good change. But now they are actually changing how the outposts look. And what we've got here, I think, is the US outpost on the left, Germans in the middle, and I'm guessing it's the Soviets on the right. When you get close to an outpost, you will start to hear like radio noise, which I think is good. You know, it kind of makes sense. If you look at what they are, they should be making some sort of radio noise when they're turned on, and since people can spawn at them, we'll assume that they are turned on. So that, in my opinion, that's a good change. The shininess, for me, is a bad change. I think they're doing it to help new players spot them easier because they're going to go shiny within 30 meters. So you'll be walking around and suddenly you'll see these outposts just suddenly get like a bit shiny or brighter as you're getting close to them, and I think that should just be removed from the game. There's no need for it because they're adding in this sound clue as to where they are as well. There's no need for this shiny visual as well. They should get rid of the shininess. That's my opinion on that. Everything else about the changes is good. Get rid of the shiny and chrome. It's not Mad Max. Now on to this week's update, which is primarily about the Armour overhaul coming into update 10. There's a lot of information they've given us here. You know, they've done some tweaks, they've changed and reworked a lot of stuff. Mainly it's to do with the base roster of vehicles, how much ammo the tanks can have, the fuel costs, sound effects, visual effects, and other slight changes like the AT classes will no longer be able to reload their launcher, or for the Soviets the AT rifle while sprinting. The main rework for the armor system coming in is the hitboxes for the tanks. Now what I'm showing for you on screen is the hitbox for one of the new tanks coming into the game. I believe it's the T-34, and they haven't actually said what these colors represent. I'm going to assume that, well, green, it's the tracks, red is the heaviest or the thickest part of the armor, yellow are sort of weak points, blue is the turret, so maybe he's going to be weaker than the main armor, and purple is probably just not as thick as the main red armor. So by doing this rework, they've got rid of small little issues that were happening where a tank shell could hit some bit of geometry that's on the exterior of a vehicle, like they're saying like a hook, a spade, or just some sort of edge, which could lead to random outcomes like a bounce, a non-penetrating explosion, or a penetrating hit, or even like a one-hit kill. So hopefully this should fix the tank combat a lot. I can't really comment on what the tank combat is like because I just don't play tanks, I just like playing infantry, to be honest. They've also changed some visual effects of when a tank is hit. So what you can see is this is what a ricochet hit is going to look like. So you can see sparks flying off, I'm guessing in the direction where the tank shell has been ricocheted off to. You've got a non-penetrating hit, which is just like let's say like a little explosion of sparks, and a penetrating hit, which is like a more smaller contained like mini explosion, and then you can see sparks coming out of where the tank shell actually penetrated. So it's going to make it a lot easier to see what's happening when you're shooting at tanks. They're also changing the costs of tanks in terms of the fuel costs, but we don't know what those changes are yet. They're just saying they're being changed, and they're changing it to reflect the scarcity of fuel. So I think they're just going to be bumping up the prices of quite a few of the tanks. And now since we're getting some new tanks into the game, the US I think are getting Shermans and the Germans are getting the Panzers. I'm not sure if they're actually coming in update 10 or just a little bit later, but they're trying to reduce the amount of heavy tanks that get put into the game. because you've probably seen multiple Tigers and multiple Jumbos at a time. They want to get rid of that. They want to put more focus on the medium tanks. What they want is when a heavy tank turns up on the battlefield, they want it like really to be known it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage instead of just another tank. So the heavy tanks are not going to be part of like the default lineup, they've said. So what I'm guessing they mean from that is the heavy tanks may not spawn at the beginning of the match. The commander's going to have to manually spawn them once they have the fuel for it and once the cooldown has cooled down. Vehicles are getting an extra component now. They're getting an engine component. So the engine can actually take damage now. So when it drops down to 0, the engine is gone. So that's going to be a good little thing for the Soviet AT rifles to probably aim for. Take out the tracks, take out the engine, immobilize that vehicle so their tanks can just, try and get around the flanks or around the back. And then we have a lot of extra changes for vehicles. They've changed the physics, so some vehicles may bounce around less. They'll reduce the likelihood of the vehicles getting stuck. Trucks should be able to drive up steep angles a bit better. There's new sound effects when colliding with things, entering vehicles. The tank engine noise is changing. It's quite a few extra changes here. And then we have the IS-1, which is the Soviet heavy tank. And this tank was actually developed from the KV tank. What they did was improve the armor and the armament of the KV, so they gave it a bigger gun, more armor, and they changed how the insides were positioned, which actually made the vehicle lighter. But down the line in World War II, they actually upgraded the standard medium T-34 tank to the same gun size as the IS-1, but then they made the IS-2, which gave it a 122mm gun. A huge gun, so we could be getting the IS-2 down the line as well, which would be good. And then we've got the BA-10, which is a Soviet armoured car, and I'm guessing this is their recon vehicle. And it's quite unique looking. It doesn't look like a tank, it does. To me, it looks like a World War I vehicle almost. It really does look a bit out of place to me, but it is something they use, so yeah, it should be in the game. And that's all for this dev briefing. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give it a like, subscribe for more, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching.